The council will come to order. All rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of our veterans, servicemen and women, and those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. Clerk will call the roll. Oh, hold on. Councilor Anderson.
Thank you, Madam President. Can I ask us to please stand for another moment of silence? Our compliance official, Dave Morse, his sister passed away. Nancy Barboto is her name. I've known her since I was born, I think. I've known her longer than most of you have been alive, and she passed away after struggling for the last few years. I went to the wake earlier this evening, and Nancy grew up here in Malden, since has moved on to Danvers, where she was living with her family over the last number of years. But she was a wonderful person and a longtime friend of mine, and certainly the other piece is that she's the sister of our person, David Morris, and I would just like to offer just a moment of silence on behalf of her. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Clerk will call the roll.
Anderson.
Yeah.
Kamal. Here. Condon.
Here.
Crow.
Here.
DeMaria. Here. Matheson. Murphy. O'Malley.
Here.
Spatafora. Here. Winslow. Here. Sika.
Here. Under the provisions of the open meeting law, for those of you in attendance, please be aware that MATV, along with resident John Mayara, is recording this evening's meeting. Again, there will be audio and video recording of this meeting. First order of business.
James O'Brien and Steve Farma will appear before the council to discuss the residential tax abatement.
Good evening, folks.
Good evening.
If you will, I'd like to just give a little overview of the program. I can tell you that I think what maybe prompted us here this evening is one of the councilors had reached out a few weeks ago, and I think there was some concern about the program and as to whether it's being handled efficiently. More importantly, that some folks that maybe aren't entitled to the exemption are in fact getting it. So a little history. The program started here in Malden in '08 for the first time. And that first year was challenging because it was the very first year. So we did a mass mailing to all the residential properties, which would have been about 12,500. Folks responded, and we then utilized, and then with that mailing, there was an application and a brief letter explaining the program. When the folks responded, we used another data source to verify, and that primary source that we used was the city clerk's poll book, which, it's my understanding, you verify residency through that document, through that source. So we thought it was key, tied to the program that we were dealing with. So if I could, I'm going to hand out something to each of you. Was there an extra over there, Dave?
Is it one page?
Just one page, yes. So if you look to the far right column, that's a summary of the last 12 years. And what we're showing you there is the number of residential properties, followed by the number that got it for that particular year, and then just a percentage calculation. And if you go down the list, I think you see tremendous consistency in the neighborhood of 67, 68% each year getting it. Whether that means something or not, I don't know, but our data seems to be the same each year as we administer this. What do we deal with each year? Again, the first year was the challenge because it was brand new. What we deal with each year subsequent to that is we do that same mailing to new property owners. We use the filing of a deed that triggers that. It's all predicated on who owns the property on January 1. So those deeds that are filed predate that. So like right now, we're in fiscal year 2020. The properties that are eligible for the exemption are the ones that were legally owned and occupied on January 1, 2019. So this past 2 or 3 months, we've been looking at all the properties that sold in calendar year 2018 leading up to that magical date of 1/1/19. As of about an hour ago, I have, I think, 8415 as the number for this year. Now that's going to change tomorrow by the close of business because there's going to be folks that are going to be filing. Unfortunately, people don't always file timely, which makes it a little more challenging for us. So again, as of an hour ago, 8,415 people are signed up to be getting it for the current year, fiscal 20. A couple of final bullet points. There's no prorating with this award, if you will, this exemption. A property either gets it or it doesn't. The dollar award is the same for every property, whether it's a big house or a little house, in that given year. The calculation to arrive at the dollar award was set by the legislation that was passed many years ago. There's a formula that we use. And when you hear the word percentage, it does not mean a percentage calculation of your property. It's more of a mass calculation that's done. With respect to the concern about folks receiving it that shouldn't be, Steve Farma, who I'll ask to address in a moment, went in and produced a report for me about a month ago. And he came up with 209 properties that he thought should be looked at. And I've got through about 95 of them so far. Of that, there's probably about 25 that warrant me looking even a little closer. I have my concerns that the folks maybe shouldn't be getting it. So we're still working on that. With respect to that 209 or the 94 that I've got through thus far, it's almost like a case-by-case basis. There's some properties that are on a corner lot. And over time with the post office, the mailman uses the side door. So in our database, it might say 25 Beltran Street as being the legal address. The mailing address is on the corner lot. I found that in a number of cases that I went through, corner lots. So someone looking at address of property and mailing, you know, that's the explanation for those particular ones. I found a number that there's adult children and caregivers taking care of their parents. The tax bill's mailed to them. They're in North Carolina. They're in California. The parents live on the property. They're entitled to it. But again, when you look, tax bill goes to North Carolina. That raises a red flag. But what I've verified thus far on those, that's the case. A couple that I come across were properties that sold in 2019. They're not even in the conversation yet. It's 1/1/19 that we're dealing with. Those properties that sold in 2019 are ones that we're going to be dealing with next year. I guess that's the main information I've come up with. I would also say finally that the data sources that we use are in our history of inspecting the property when we've been out there. The city clerk's poll book is a key document. We use excise tax bills. Unfortunately, not everyone owns a car. And a lot that own cars, they're listed by lease companies. If we do suspect someone's in another community, we'll go into an online database and look up if we have someone's name. We may find them at an address in another community. That might be the kind of example of those 28 or so that I thought I need to take a look at. Could you hold that? And I said that I wanted to finish with that, but I have one other thing. About 3 years ago, I contacted the legal department of the Department of Revenue, and I spoke with attorney James Crowley, who handles a lot of municipal affairs. And I said to him, we have a mandated inspection program in the city where we're supposed to get out to every property at least once over a 10-year period. And I said to him, if during the course of doing that, if we don't have compliance with getting into a property, would that be ground, and the folks are receiving the exemption, would that be grounds for us to remove the exemption? And he said no. So that was just our diligence in looking at, folks cooperating, so to speak. So I'll leave you with my mantra. If you want the tax break, then you're expected to cooperate. No, I want Steve to just explain his GIS, because there's an interface between our data and the GIS.
Yeah, one of the things.
Drink my water.
Okay. One of the things that happens when people look at our data and they get it off the website or request it, they are looking at historical data. So the data is not always up to date as what's in the assessing database. So that's going to cause a little concern too. They may see, oh, you have this property's getting and shouldn't be, or vice versa, but really in the live database, it's already been corrected. So that's a work in progress. What's on the website and what we give out to people are the historical data. So that's something to just to be aware of. The data that you're looking at is not always accurate. It's not up to date. We update that once a year, and that usually goes right after the tax bills. Any other questions about that procedure at all or anything?
Councilor DiMaria.
Thank you, Madam President. I really do want to thank our assessor and Steve Farma for starting this review. I was the counselor who brought it to them, and rather than ordering them to the floor, we had some great discussions in Jim's office. I think that this is something that that is a wonderful program for homeowners in Malden. And, kudos to at-large counselor Mike Sheehan, who started this program in 2008. So I think it's something definitely we should continue to work with. And all I would ask, as I would assume many of the counselors here would just say, continue with the review, because as we're learning with our ordinances, a review of these great programs is something that keeps it on point and fresh and correct. So I thank you both very much.
Thank you. Councilor Crowe.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. O'Brien, I just have a quick question. I mean, of course, you try to vet the data as best you can, and people that want to find an end around will do the best they can. Do you have a cross-reference with sort of a name? So so Peg Crow, I'm sure there's more than one of me, and, well, one of the name, but if Peg Crow is listed in 3, 4 properties and getting a residential tax, you know, that might say, all right, let me look at a little closer, because it's not really John Smith.
Absolutely. In those 94 that I've worked on already, there's a gentleman who owns 2 properties, both in Edgeworth. And I believe, or at least my records show him living in A,
And live in B.
and he's getting the exemption in B. My first reaction was, well, he's only getting it once, so that's a good thing. But we obviously want it to be in the correct property.
Correct.
But, you know, it's a matter of the paperwork catching up.
Of course.
Councilor Di Maria didn't mention that she also was a participant in this a year ago, because she moved from one property to the next, and her and I had a exchange in order to take it away from A and give it to B. So it's
Of course.
ongoing.
Checks and balances, right?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I know, thank you for all the work that you do. Again, I know it's one of those things that someone will try to find a way if there is, but, you know, having to keep it all. It's a great job. Thank you.
Councilor Matheson.
Thanks. Jim, I missed maybe some of this, but you perform a review like this every year, if I've gathered correctly. You look at the voter rolls and the excise tax bills. Is that right? To update this exemption?
Well, I don't want to misrepresent. We implemented within the last month of a review, given the, you know, but.
When was the last time you did a review?
Well, it's ongoing that we check things. We don't
Right.
just, you know, we don't just award it to people. We have a process.
So what are you doing differently now? I'm a little confused. What are you doing?
The main thing that was done was, once I confirmed that a property was receiving the exemption and the tax bill was not going to the property, that was the red flag that triggered it.
Yeah.
Then from there, I went to the poll book to see if they were listed as residing there. In some cases, they were, even though the tax bill was going to somewhere else. And then that opened up other things that I had to determine.
Sure.
I found someone in Woburn, I found someone in Stoneham. I went to Bankers and Tradesmen, and I went in and found that they own a single family in Woburn, and I thought that was pretty strong evidence that, you know, so it's a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, of course. So that was my next question. How do you follow up to reconcile the inconsistency?
Well, we'll remove it from them once we have that confidence level that they shouldn't be getting it.
Okay. I know a lot of proof of residency requests, RMV and whatnot, they ask for a utility bill. That's a pretty good evidence that you live in that, you reside in that
That's a
domicile.
So we have a two-step application. We go to the poll book.
Right.
When they're not in the poll book, we request utility bills. That's the second step in step 2. And then we try to stay away from step 3 and 4, which is tax returns, because that scares me. Social Security numbers and the like.
Residential exemption, this is the amount that's coming off everyone's tax bill once they're confirmed? The $2,157, is that right?
That was the dollar credit in fiscal 19, yes,
Okay.
2157.
So regardless of the value of your home, that's what everyone gets for
Correct.
reduction. And 162.5, the Res X, that's the average home value?
No,
What is that?
that was the dollar amount that was exempted away. The average value, if you will, was 500,000. And
The
ones
taxable value of 162 is how you arrive at the 2,157.
with your percentage vote on the average residential value, which
30%.
was about 500,000 last year.
Right. Okay, well, keep up the good work, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Anderson.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. So you may have mentioned this, so let me ask again, because I don't remember what your response was. How many properties are red flagged on average? Let me say that differently. You've got some properties that are suspicious. They trigger your second review. And of the approximately 12,500 or so properties, what percentage of that are the ones that require that further scrutiny?
Well, I would take it from that 12,000 figure to the next figure, the 8,000, because that represents the folks that actually got it. So that would be the floor, that would be the ceiling, the 8,000, rather than the 12.
Okay, so that's the number
Ceiling.
that got it.
Got it, correct.
So like,
So
so
that would
if I'm
be the-
looking at, if I'm looking at 2019, 12,570,
We're eligible.
well, eligible, 8,451
Got it.
received it. Okay. So, but I think you were bringing to us the issue of those that received it that are questionable. And my question is, of that 8,451, how many of those, approximately, were questionable?
The information that I brought to you was this report that we did within the last 6 weeks or so.
Okay.
Which was created by Steve, and it was 209.
209, okay.
And of that, I've got through 94 of them.
Okay.
And of that, I have about 25 that I suspect we should be taking away the exemption.
Okay. Okay.
So
Well,
I got to finish doing the rest of the 209.
yeah, well, it sounds like you are doing the diligence that's required, that we are on top of looking at it and not just accepting the person's word without doing some other due diligence. And I think the program is a great program. I'm glad that we're able to give back to the homeowners who live in our community, you know, some tax relief. And so, as I've heard others say, keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, and I thank you for the work doing the audit of this. Do you ever cross-reference with excise tax bills?
Yes,
You already said that? Oh, sorry, my apologies.
the 94 that I've gone through thus far, Kathy in my office actually went and looked up excise on just about all of those, not all of those, but the ones that I had flagged.
Mm-hmm.
She looked up excise, and in most instances, I'll have to talk with her again, but in most instances, she said there was no listing of an excise. So that's further
Red flag.
red flag, except that not everyone has a car. And a lot of cars are listed by Toyota and Nissan, and they're not under individual names. Yeah, leased, right, exactly.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Kamel.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. I know it's not easy to come up here and go over the details of these very complex programs sometimes. But let me ask you a hypothetical, if you don't mind. Prior to this review, say I come, I move in, I buy a house, I get my residential exemption. Later I move out, I don't sell it, I rent it out. I never get I never go to, the city and tell them I don't live there anymore. Prior to this review, what was the process to double check that kind of stuff?
There wouldn't have been, and that's one of the things that Council DeMaria pointed out, that she knew of folks that had moved out of the city,
Right.
kept the property. So there's no communication back to the city that would tell us that.
Right.
I mean, but there's other things that come into play that you just mentioned in that scenario. There's a new homeowner. He's going to be hearing from the assessors for other reasons about a year from now as we go out to...
If I sold the house.
Right.
If I
Oh,
rent
I'm
it.
sorry, right, you're saying he
rent it
retained
out,
it. You said he retained
there's
it, right, yeah.
There's no trigger.
That's correct, yeah.
Right, yeah. Steve?
There might be, because when you own a house, now you're going to leave and go into another house.
Sure.
Presumably, you're going to buy the house, which then is going to trigger an inspection. We're going to see the name, then it may get cross-referenced as
If I buy a
opposed to
house
in Malden. If you leave the city, well, it gets a little more dicier. It's harder to do that.
Yeah, say,
Um,
Tewksbury. I go and buy, or...
And that's
Owens,
where what would happen in the past a lot of times is, again, as we're doing our inspections for multiple reasons, we stumble across those, we find them, and they'll get corrected and addressed at that time.
Okay.
So that's...
And how do you stumble upon them usually?
Just by, well, first of all, neighbors love to, again, so there's one, just our inspections itself, when we go out there, there's the sales, the building permits, there's the reviews that I have to do, so there's 3 types that we go out. You may get away with it for a year or 2, but you'll get caught up. And one of the reasons why we never really did a major audit, which we always did, but never to the level that we just did, or that I created the report for at this one. It's just that the data is so in flux constantly because of the corner lots and people moving
Right.
and you know,
That's an interesting one. That
going back
makes
and forth to
sense.
different mortgage
Yeah.
companies. It's
Yeah.
just the try and maintain it and just go through it all, you almost would have to go through the whole 200-page report today, run it tomorrow, do it again, and the next day, and the next day. It's inconceivable to actually just monitor it that way. So that's why we have a little bit of a lag. So there's always going to be a few that's going to pass through. It's just the nature of the project, of the program.
That's great. And I do have one more question. So just in terms for everybody's understanding, when we talk about, and it seems like it's a very small number if it's a number at all, if people are getting this and they shouldn't be getting this, it's not that they affect the revenue for the city, right? It just shifts. It just sort of shifts, and this is my theory, correct me if I'm wrong, it shifts and it reduces the residential tax exemption that everybody else that should be getting it get, right?
Right, what it impacts, I mean, you're talking about one property, so,
Tiny,
but
yeah.
in the aggregate,
Yeah.
it impacts the tax rate. Just like his folks that that are the higher value, the break even, it makes for a higher tax rate.
Right, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So,
the
yeah,
tax
that
rate up-
affects the
yeah.
pocketbook.
And then, but it
You know.
also reduces, will it reduce the
The
residential?
dollars
tax?
coming in, no.
No, the
No.
residential, no. Does it reduce the residential tax exemption that the other 8,400?
I don't believe so. Yeah, I don't believe so.
Not at all.
Could I make a point that
Okay.
something the two of you were
But
exchanging?
let me just know, let me ask
Yep,
you a question. In your calculation of the residential tax exemption, doesn't the proportion of owner-occupied residents come into that calculation?
Yes, the sheer number of folks that do, yes.
Yeah, if that number is inflated in your calculation, doesn't that spread the residential tax exemption over more properties?
The dollar amount. You've got me confused, to be
You know what?
honest.
I'll leave you at that one. I'll probably follow up and annoy you with some emails on that one.
To answer your question, it actually does. And what will happen is roughly for every 100 people that get it, you're gonna, you could change the tax rate by anywhere between 3 to 5 cents for every.
I mean, small amounts, but I'm just saying.
Right, and so, but it's not going to affect anything other than a homeowner paying a little bit more, or not necessarily paying more. It's going to end up coming out in the wash, depending on the numbers when we round. You'll see when you guys do the tax recap in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
There's a sheet that I always
Yep.
that I produce. If you look on the right-hand side, it's going to break down the residential exemption and then all the tax rates to it. If we had it, if we don't have it, what the rates are going to be.
Right.
And that will kind of answer your question
Yeah,
by
great.
looking at that.
Great, I'll take a look at that. All right, yeah, I don't mean to drill you guys while you're, thank you very much.
To Mr. Kamel, though, the thing I wanted to add was, we do have folks that reach out to us, compliance, PIPs, Board of Health, Fire and Police, that go out to properties and they'll go to his database and they go, oh, the property's getting it, and then the word gets back to me, so. But then I'm required to look into a little further. Yeah, maybe they're not there today, but maybe they were there on 1/1 and they just moved out. So that's why there's due diligence involved in verifying, you know, it's not always that easy to determine. And we do encourage the public and folks to give us a call, both to check if someone's property's receiving it, and if they want to pass along that they don't think someone's entitled to it. But we're going to then do diligence. We can't just go and take it away based on a phone call from a neighbor, you know.
Thank you. Councilor Matheson.
All right, so just two things to clarify the last
Sorry.
conversation. Is it fair to say everyone pays a little bit more in order to fund the exemption that the owner-occupied folks get? It's reflected in the rate.
It's the cost of the program is borne in the rate.
Correct.
But
So at some point, there's a break even. So
Right.
the additional cost at a home that say $750,000 is equal to the exemption. Those homeowners and people with valued properties above that don't actually benefit from the exemption.
correct. They actually pay more because it's a lower tax, it's a
We
higher
talk about
tax
this
rate.
every year.
Yep. And at the other end of the spectrum, the very,
Sure, you live in a condo with a low valuation.
Studio
you're getting-
condo?
You're getting a boom.
there are some
You're
that.
getting a windfall from that.
that are at the floor,
Right.
and the legislation says that in no instance do they not pay zero.
Right.
We have to go back and calculate what their tax bill would have been at a 10% level. They have to have skin in the game, basically.
Right, but their bill gets very low. So my other question was, do you cross-reference? I think you answered it, but inspectional services with all these Airbnb complaints, one of the problems that communities are having, like ours, and people are legislating on the state level, and different countries are legislating this, the Airbnb properties don't comply with the local ordinances. So if we have frequent complaints at a particular property, that might be an example of say, John Smith, who owns 2 houses. He lives in one outside the community, but he's Airbnb the one in Malden all the time, and he might be getting that residential exemption. Are you working with the folks over in Pips
Oh,
to
sure.
follow up on those properties?
Sure. But it will come down to whether that individual resides there.
Well, exactly.
running a
No, right, but if you're getting an Airbnb complaint every couple of weeks, he probably
Then
doesn't reside there.
it would be on my
It's probably-
list of
It's probably
those-
a little hotel business for him, right?
Right.
All right, thanks.
Councilor Spatafora.
Thank you, Madam President. The first thing is I'm going to ask this to be referred to finance, just because I think a lot of questions are good on the, don't say ordinance, please, there's enough of ordinance. I think there's a lot of things we could follow up for in terms of the new policies you set, and not that I don't think it's important to do on the floor, but I think it's good to do in committee, so we can have some real data. One thing I would ask to consider, and I probably, it's not going to be something that the resident's going to like, is I think the owner should be on the residence. I think every year we should send a letter to their house attesting that they live there. And if then they check that box off, and if they don't get the letter back, then it's too bad, right? And there should be some way that, because it seems like a lot of work to catch somebody who's eluding us, where I think it's easy, if we know that 67%, if we have the addresses on file, can we just send a letter every year asking them to verify they live there? And if we don't get it back within a certain amount of time, too bad.
Do you know how many people do not respond? Their apathy and skepticism. In year one of this program,
Yep.
we got a greater response over the phone. What are you trying to do to us now? Did you read the letter? It became the 11th hour. And a
No.
decision was made to go to the poll book, and if the folks were listed, to award it to them based on that. It's incredible that, the folks that come in now. April 1's the drop dead date, April 1. And I'll have someone come in April 2nd and 3rd, and I feel for them, but, it's a real challenge.
I think this is something we could talk about committee. I'm not going, I think what I'm trying to hope for is, I don't think anybody in the committee wants to not give it to somebody who's certainly entitled to it. I think that what the committee's trying to do is take it away from somebody who's not entitled to it. And if there is 25 or 26 houses out there, we should have the ability to go after them, especially because in my eyes, it's stealing, right? They're taking a benefit that belongs to the residents of the city that they are saying that they're living there and they're not. So I think we should work on something to at least say, hey, you're not paying, there should be a clawback. Because in my opinion is, you're saying you live there, we have your name and address, you're getting a benefit other people are getting, why should we be able to come back to you? I mean, it's a significant amount of money in some cases, right? And that's why I think, again, I'm not asking for answers now, but I think we send it to finance, or somebody said ordinance, bite your tongue, but at least the ability to think out some ideas to help make the program more successful and entitled for people who live here, not the ones that are, because obviously it's an immense amount of property you have to do. And to catch somebody, it seems like a lot of detective work, right? Well, it's worth it. There's got to be a better way we can make sure that the residents are getting what is rightly so.
And I mentioned at the very beginning, that thing I handed out, again, I don't know if it says anything, but there seems to be tremendous consistency in how many we have each year.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's some in there that are shouldn't be in there, and I know there's folks that aren't getting it that should be, and, you can't take a horse to water.
I'm going to liken it to Council Connor's been beating the table too. He's doing a great job in the park committee about excise tax, where people are putting their cars here and they're not paying the excise tax. I liken this to this, but, instead of a $400 a year excise tax bill.
Yeah, this is a large amount.
It's $1,500, $2,000. If we catch 20 houses, that's $20,000. I mean, that's significant amount of money. I mean, that's not $400.
That's $40,000.
I mean, that's a half of somebody's salary. That is another program we can do. It's something I think we could at least, again, go to committee with it. I would think finance should be the place, and maybe work on something to help your team get a little better and efficient at. That's all I ask. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Spatafora. You, really fast though, you do realize that they're just guests, so we can't refer it to finance. Okay.
I'll be back in a couple of weeks.
So,
Councilor Kamel.
that was there's nothing to send. This is an informational presentation. We thank you very much. We don't want to drag it out more on you. But also, I don't mean to be a stickler here, but the difference between the excise tax and this is this doesn't change our overall revenue. It wouldn't fund something else, but you're right, it is stealing from the people who should be getting it. It's shifting somewhere. It's shifting this tax burden to somebody else who shouldn't be paying it, whichever way it goes. But it is steal. But I just want people to be clear. It's not a revenue difference. It's shifting. You're just stealing it from your neighbor. So, all right.
Great, thank you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Next order of business.
Ken Mazonson, founder and commissioner of the Malden Neighborhood Basketball League, will appear before the council to receive a citation from the council.
Councilor Di Maria.
Thank you, Madam President, and I'm here to welcome resident Ken Mazonson, who would like to share some celebratory news about the Malden Neighborhood Basketball League.
Good evening, everyone. I came here to let everybody know that as the president and founder of the Malden Neighborhood Basketball League, that we're going to be celebrating our 35th anniversary this winter.
Wow.
Thank you. It's a program that I started, as I say, 35 years ago for 10th, 11th, and 12th graders that live in Malden that don't play for their high school basketball team. Those are the three criteria. It actually started from this location. I coached in what was the Church League basketball program at the Center Methodist Church, and they had a junior division and a senior division. They did away with the senior division to modify the junior division, and the seniors had no place to play. So two kids who came up to me who were in the 10th grade at the time said, well, we want to play. We don't play for the high school team, and we fall between the ages. And I said, well, you're in the 10th grade. We give an extra age, a year of your birthday in case you stay back so that you'd be able to play still in the church league. I said, do you think you can get 40 kids together and I'll try to put something together? Well, they assured me they could. And within about 2 or 3 weeks, we had a registration and tryout at the Brown Junior High, which was still up and running at the time. We had 44 kids show up at the first night. And 2 nights later, we had 33 new kids show up. So we had 77 kids for the very first year of it. And over the course of time, we now are approaching 1,500 kids that have gone through the program. Wow. We've had kids come up to myself and other coaches, say they never would have graduated high school if it wasn't for the program, because one of the requirements is that they have to be in school. We don't have academic requirements because you only have to go to school, only go to practice 1 night a week, and the games are on the weekends. Another couple things to know about the program is that there are roughly 25 to 30 coaches in the league. And I would say that probably 90 to 95% of them are former players in the league who enjoy themselves so much that they want to come back and continue to participate in it. 2 of my coaches are actually here tonight. One of them is Sean Hickey, who played in the league, and what is it, 10 or 11 years now, Sean? Going into his 11th year coaching. And the other gentleman is Talonzo Weymouth, who's sitting here, who did not play in the league because he's as old as the league is. He was down in Florida the first year of the league, but he has been coaching since the second year. This is his 34th year coaching in the Malden Neighborhood Basketball League. Wow. And he also does a weekly television show for the league on Malden Access television called Around the Rim. We've had some of our players go on to make the high school team. We've had some kids even go on to play in their colleges. We've had, in fact, the current Malden High varsity coach started out his coaching career in the Malden Neighborhood Basketball League, coached in my league for the first 7 or 8 years. So it's quite an accomplishment. I'm very proud of it. I thank all of you for your support. I'm sure you all know that I request and get endorsed by the mayor, but certainly get funded through the Malden Redevelopment Authority, that you approve a community block development grant, which goes a long way towards running the program. It costs me a little over $30,000 a year to run the program. And we charge the kids only $100 to play. And they actually get raffle tickets that if they sell the $52 raffle tickets, they play for free. So we have to make up roughly $20,000 to $22,000 in addition to the $8,000 registration dollars that come in. So needless to say, the grant money goes a long way, and we do a lot of fundraising on our own. I did come bearing gifts. I have a pen to commemorate the anniversary. I'd like to pass these out to you folks.
Oh, Sean will do it. Thank you.
So if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them at this time.
We got a few lights on. Councilor Crowe.
Thank you, Madam President. Congratulations, Kenny, on all those achievements. And, you know, the league has grown so much that I know in the last, and a few years ago, you actually added on the Summer Jam, sort of part of the neighborhood basketball that meets down at Green Street Park, and it's brought lots of life and, you know, excitement. There's always somebody playing down there, so congratulations on that. And we actually named, the basketball courts at Green Street Kenny and Mazonson courts, really because of all the work that you've done in just 35 years. Congratulations to Talonzo and Sean for your participation, and thank you for being really community involvement, and just congratulations on a wonderful accomplishment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Spatafora.
Thank you, Madam President. I think it's just, I echo what Councilor Crowe said. You know, it's anything to last 35 years is certainly a statement of the validity of the program, but having been a big supporter since I've been elected and getting to go down there and see all the, you know, the kids now that are, when I first started as a councilor, now much older and in college, and you came down to the rec center this fall and watched the other kids try to recruit them for your program the following year, so it seems to get bigger and bigger every year. But certainly I think the idea of all the hours and the volunteerism that you and the coaching staff do for those kids, the money is obviously important. It drives a lot of the, you know, funding is important for everything. But I don't think you can put a price tag on the amount of time and you and the rest of the coaches have put towards those kids. And I think that's what you really should be proud of, not only how those kids turned out, but what you've done for the city and the children of the city. So congratulations for you and your supporters on 35 years of success.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, Ken, and the coaches, I just also want to thank you and for that dedication. That's quite an accomplishment, and I know I was able to go to the fundraising dinner, the awards dinner, and just see the camaraderie amongst the players, and I look forward to being a little bit more involved this year. And so I want to thank you guys for all your effort, and let's go on for another 35 years. I think that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Anderson.
Yes, thank you, Ken. I want to echo the the comments of my colleagues here. 35 years of doing anything is really noteworthy. And when you laid out the criteria for enrollment, I think that's wonderful. The kids who aren't playing in the high school basketball team are the ones that are eligible. That's touching a population that otherwise would be overlooked. And so congratulations to you, and I salute you for that.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you. Councilor DiMaria.
Thank you, Madam President. And we do have a citation to give you and your league, and then I'll read it, and then maybe we can take a picture with the coaches as well. The City of Malden, be it hereby known to all that the Malden City Council hereby offers its sincerest congratulations to Ken Mazonson in recognition of the 35-year anniversary of the Malden Neighborhood Basketball League. We are all very proud of your accomplishments and wish you continued success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll start our games the first full weekend after the new year. We're at the Ferryway School on Saturday and Sunday afternoons from about 1 till 5:30. I invite all of you to come down, encourage you to come down and see these kids. They're kids that, as Councilor Anderson said, did not either make their high school team or were academically ineligible to play for their basketball team, play basketball recreationally, but they try as hard or harder than what you see on television. And this means an awful lot to these kids. And I'll buy you a slice of pizza if you come down to the game.
Councilor Matheson.
Thanks, Ken. I just wanted to say what a great way to leave your stamp in the world and to be a positive influence in the lives of young people, and this is a great way to do it. Basketball and sports in general, it teaches sportsmanship, camaraderie, and working well together, and you help put that together, and I think that's just incredible. So for me and all my colleagues and the population at large, I think it's just wonderful. Thank you.
Couldn't have done it without the coaches, though, honestly. I'm the figurehead, but 25 to 30 guys that come down every Saturday and Sunday. They don't get paid anything. They practice every Thursday night. Some don't live in the city. They travel from distance. They deserve as much or more credit than I do. So thank you.
Yep, picture.
Hello. How you doing?
Next order of business.
Approval of minutes, paper 378-19, minutes of the meeting from the City Council on October 22nd, 2019.
On Councilor DiMaria's motion to approve the minutes, all those in favor? All those opposed? The minutes have been approved. Next order of business.
Paper 379-19, minutes of the meeting of the City Council from October 29th, 2019.
On Councilor Crow's motion to approve the minutes, all those in favor? All those opposed? The minutes have been approved. Next order of business.
Paper 380-19, mayoral appointment, Davidson Teleka, 32 Perkins Ave, Malden, Mass. As an associate member of the Board of Appeals, said term to expire on March 1st, 2022.
On Councilor Crow's motion to refer to appointments and personnel, all those in favor? All those opposed? The appointments have been referred. Next order of business.
Paper 381-9, petition applicant, Celico Partnership, DBA Verizon Wireless, vendor Nexium Solutions, Inc., 5 small cell petitions.
Councilor O'Malley for the committee.
Thank you. So our clerk said that there would be a nice improvement to the process if rather than having the hearing before we review them, send them to public properties, we can review them, and then we'll have the hearing.
Agreed.
It sounds like Councilor Kamal also thought of this idea. So I just moved to refer this to public properties.
On Councilor O'Malley's motion to refer this paper to public properties, all those in favor? All those opposed? The paper has been referred. Next order of business.
Paper 382-19, petition secondhand dealer or pawnbroker, Briley's Jewelry, 366 Ferry Street, Malden, Mass.
On Councilor Anderson's motion to refer this petition to license, all those in favor? All those opposed? The petition has been referred. Next order of business.
Paper 383-19, resolved to file and accept grants with and from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs for the Parkland Acquisition and Renovation for Communities Program for improvements at Trafton Park.
Councilor Kamel? Oh, hold on one second, Councilor Winslow. Apparently my paper's wrong. I have something else. Oh, okay, yeah, okay, sorry, hold on. Councilor Winslow for the paper.
I submitted the paper, and I guess the first thing I want to do on the resolution is ask that Councilor Kamel be added as a co-sponsor. Then I was going to hand it over to Councilor Kamel to talk about the paper. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Kamel.
Thank you, Councilor Winslow. Councilor Winslow has been a steadfast partner through the whole thing, and really been quite an asset to help guide through this process. So we had several community meetings over quite some time, starting back in 2018, about renovations and revitalization that the community would love to see in Trafton Park. Had a great partner also in the MRA through the whole process. And with those meetings, we put together a master plan. We applied and were awarded a $400,000 reimbursement park grant. That is a reimbursement grant that does require a match from the city. The final requirement for this grant, even though it's been awarded, but we do have to fulfill one more requirement, which is for the city to accept the grant and commit to funding it by December 31st. And the language for this resolution, it's not. This is just the title. The resolution. There's a duck in here. The resolution should be attached in our system. That language was taken from the draft resolutions within the application. The final part of the process is we are currently underway with the CPC application for the match. We've coordinated and making sure we're on the same page as the city solicitor and the controller, as well as the CPC, who will be taking this up by December 3rd. Our goal tonight is to get this process started, get on everybody's radar, get on the agenda. We fully expect it to be tabled tonight, but we want to get this process started while that final step of the CPC application is reviewed and hopefully comes back, and we can pass this resolve and fulfill that final requirement, and for the city to get that $400,000 to do some great renovations at Trafton Park. I will hand it over to Councilor Winslow, if that's okay with the order of things.
Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, I mean, this first phase of related to the grant, it will be focusing on one of the major motivations. It was the condition of the field out there, so this will allow the field to be reconditioned. Upgrade to the playground area. Right now, we just have wood chips. We would have a better rubber surface, and also to take down a very dilapidated batting cage and expand the playground. That's kind of the focus. Depending upon how things go with the Community Preservation Committee, we're also looking to upgrade the paths around the field. So that's all part of the master plan that was all well vetted with the community. And so this will be the first step to doing these improvements. And I know the CPC's been very happy at using this as a model to community engagement and then coming up with funding. So I think it's an exciting proposal, and I think this will help queue up many other projects that will couple,
I think so.
park grants and other funding with CPA money and really, get $2 extra for every dollar we put in CPA money. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor O'Malley.
I just wanted to say congratulations to the counselor from Ward 6. I mean, this is a huge achievement, and Councilor Winslow at large. Oh, I was going to get to that. The fact that you involved the community proactively, the fact that it was teamwork amongst councilors as well as the MRA, I just think it deserves a round of applause for the accomplishment that this was. Looking forward to seeing the brand-new Trafton Park.
We have a motion to pass the result. Are you going to do that tonight, or are you tabling? Who wants to speak? Councilor Kamel.
Just out of respect for the CPC process, we just want to let them have that process out. We would fully expect that this is the kind of thing that is the full intent of that, but we don't want to move forward with this resolve until that part of the process is completed. If there is some kind of hang up there, then which I doubt, then we'll figure some other approach out. But just out of respect for the whole thing coming together, we want to just make sure this is on the docket, has been entered in, and we'll actually make a motion to table it while that gets completed.
Okay.
All right.
So motion to table?
Motion to table.
On Councilor Kamel's motion to table, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The paper's been tabled. Next order of business.
Paper 384-19, Ordinance, Chapter 3, Building Regulations. Be it hereby ordained that Section 3.37 of the revised ordinances of 1991 as amended be further amended to require notice by posting with the city clerk and by mail to all property owners of land located within 500 feet of the property lines of the subject property for demolition permits, and further amend Chapter 6 Licenses Ordinance. Be hereby ordained that Section 6.49 of the revised ordinances of 1991 as amended be further amended to require notice by posting with the city clerk and by mail to all property owners of land located within 500 feet of the property lines of the installation for all small cell petitions.
Councilor Spatafora for the paper.
Madam President and members of the committee, would you mind if you read into the next paper because they go together? We'll save us some time and I can explain it all at once. Thank you.
Paper 385-19 Ordinance, Chapter 12 Zoning Ordinance. Be it hereby ordained that Section 800.2.11 of Chapter 12 of the revised ordinances of 1991 as amended be further amended to change the notice requirement as follows. To require notice by mail to all property owners of land located within 500 feet of the property lines of the subject property, and for the notice provisions to apply to community outreach meetings for marijuana establishments.
The other one too?
No, the other one's a separate one. These two are related. So, members of the council, these two papers, I just want to be very clear. So, paper 384-19 and 385-19 are related. 385-19, and I want to thank Ms. Ramiro, who's here to help me with some clarification. This paper, 385-19, covers site plan review, special permits, and we're adding marijuana to this. So the reason and rationale for this paper is I want to standardize the number of feet which requires notice. In certain parts of the ordinance, one was 300 feet, one was 500 feet, and I'm sure we've all run into instances in certain circumstances where you have a parking lot that's between an abutter willing to do a development or a small cell antenna or a marijuana shop. Whatever requires notice, these two ordinances will cover. It came up in a marijuana public meeting with actually Council Seeker's ward, where literally they were 2 streets away, but because that 300 feet mark, there was a parking lot that was 100 feet, it was ridiculous that the resident didn't get notified because the parking lot was 100 feet. So what this is doing is increasing from 300 feet to 500 feet. This is my request. It's going to committee, so I'm not asking for the vote on the floor. And then to standardize wherever there is a notice from marijuana, small cell antenna, site plan review, demolition, special permit, it gets standardized to 500 feet. I would suggest, in committee, if we want to increase that, it's up to them, but the number that I worked with was 500 feet. I work with Michelle Romero in the planning office and Karen Anderson, who was here earlier, because there's certain different parts of the ordinance where this is covered. That's why it's 2 separate areas. But again, I'm looking for this to go to ordinance to discuss and hoping to get this out before the end of the year, because I think it's a good thing just to standardize. And we might also tweak the process because it seems to be a lot of burden on the clerk's office. We're going to see if we can help streamline that as well, but at least standardize the 500 feet so that the residents get notified. Any questions? If not, I'd like to refer it to committee.
On Councilor Spatafora's motion to refer these papers to ordinance, all those in favor? All those opposed? The matters have been referred. Next order of business.
Paper 386-19, ordinance be it hereby ordained that the revised ordinance of 1991 as amended be further amended to amend Chapter 12 to add the following language as a new Section 300.1.3, existing Section 300.1.3 to be renumbered to Section 300.1.4.
Councilor Spatafora?
So this is a paper that Council O'Malley asked me to co-sponsor with him. He is not here right now, but if the committee would not mind, Ms. Romero is here for some questions, and I'm sure she can highlight some of the changes here until Council O'Malley gets back, because I was on a couple conferences and emails, and she can certainly explain it better than I will be able to explain it. So if the committee wouldn't allow Ms. Romero to come before the committee and explain. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle Romero, City Planner. This is a zoning amendment that I worked on with Councilor O'Malley and Council Spatafora, and it will essentially coordinate the administration of 2 related city ordinances. One is the zoning ordinance, and the other is the demolition and alteration delay ordinance. So it's going to streamline the permitting process for properties that are subject to both ordinances. Right now, there is a bit of a disconnect when those ordinances are applied. It's also going to regulate development of property that is determined to have historical, architectural, cultural, or urban design value to the city. So properties that are coming into play under the demolition and alteration delay ordinance that may or may not need a special permit at this point. This will make a connection between those 2 ordinances. The ordinance, as proposed, the amendments do not change dimensional controls or parking requirements. They supplement existing use regulations. Will also not change any special permit regulations. Where a special permit's already required, it will still be required. And I won't get into any of the details. I think you have the text of the amendment.
And just for everybody's clarification, this is required a joint ordinance and planning. We have a date, tentatively the 17th, Michelle?
The planning board would convene for a special meeting on an evening that you're already meeting for your convenience to make sure it would be easy for you to get a quorum.
To discuss this, so this is going to committee is my point. We're going to do a joint meeting. We're going to try to do it before the end of the year. The 17th would be that date. It is a Tuesday. We do need a quorum. But again, any of the details, certainly I'm sure Ms. Romero would be happy to discuss, but I'm only asking to go to committee to discuss the details.
And if it's scheduled for, for committee next week, I can attend that meeting and we can go through some of the proposed changes. As long as it's referred back out within 2 weeks, we'll be able to schedule it for hearing before the end of the year.
Can we refer it right now for the
You
17th?
can refer
Yeah.
it for hearing and you can refer it
Yes.
to ordinance committee.
That's
So-
what I'd like to do in
Okay,
both.
you want to
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah, I want-
Okay,
yeah,
'cause
I'm
you
sorry.
you didn't do that on the other one.
Yeah, I
You
want to do
only
it this
refer-
one because
okay.
I want to make sure the date gets locked down,
Okay,
too.
so right, we'll confirm the date with the planning board tomorrow night.
Any questions? I'm sorry, Council Winslow? No,
Hold on.
Tuesday night,
it's a Tuesday night.
Tuesday, the 17th would be the proposed, would be after your regular meeting, we could do
because
the
the
hearing.
17th is a Sunday, at least, or am I looking at?
No, December.
December, okay.
December,
all right,
I'm
okay,
sorry.
all right, thank you, great.
Okay.
We can come the Sunday too, Steve, if you want. It's up to, it doesn't matter to me. So again, I just want to, we're going to refer it to ordinance and we're going to schedule the joint planning because, everybody's holiday schedules are getting busy and time is the essence here with this. The 17th is a date that we've looked at and I was waiting for Councilman, I was stalling, but he's not coming, so any support would be greatly appreciated. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Ms. Marrero.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On Councilor Spatafora's motion to refer this matter to joint public hearing with the planning board and ordinance, all those in favor? All those opposed? The matter has been referred. Next order of business. You again.
Paper 387-19. Committee report, Rules and Ordinance, Paper 320-19, Ordinance. Be it hereby ordained that the City Council establish an affordable trust fund.
Councilor Spatafora for the committee.
Thank you, Madam President. I do want to recognize,
We got to receive it.
oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. On Councilor Spatafora's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The committee report is received. Councilor Spatafora for the committee.
I was so
Sorry.
excited, I couldn't wait to speak. First of all, I want to thank the entire council. This was something that I have the original letter in front of me, was dated August 27th. We had a meeting off, we had 2 meetings off committee night. Most of the council could make it. I understand people's schedules are busy, but we thought it was an important topic, so we had dedicated 2 off-committee nights. The Mass Senior Action Committee was there as well. There was people from the public. Most councilors showed up. Excuse me? I also want to recognize that Ms. Debbie Burke, the Executive Director of the Malden Redevelopment Authority, is here. Alex and Evan are here as well. They will come up and give a brief history. Did I say it wrong? It's Evan, right? Well, you look at me like I said it wrong. And then Marie Louise for the mayor's office that were the original proposal of this. So I will give some highlights. We are adding an affordable housing trust component. We are going to amend the expandable trust language, as well as Councilor Winslow did a great job in terms of some recommendations on the makeup of the committee, as well as some city departments that will not be part of it, just to make sure we have some transparency. And that number of the committee went from originally proposed from 9 to 7. Council Khan and Council Winslow had some great points during those committee meetings. So I just want to thank all the officers in the city, the entire council, the MRA staff, just because it was something, again, August 27th, it might seem that far away, but to do something as big as this in a short amount of time, well overdue. I know many residents have felt that we had to do this faster, but we did do it pretty quick, I think, in terms of what government acting. So from the chair, I just want to thank everybody to make this a very collaborative effort and very fruitful. And now we are at the point where we hopefully will get the council vote to support the next steps, but I do want to allow Mr. Alex and Evan to speak real quickly on this paper, if the council doesn't mind. Thank you. Alex, Brad, you may say the names.
Am I like Cher?
Yes. Yes, the daughter and Cher will come up and speak now.
Thank you, Councillor. I won't belabor the point in the summary that you just gave. The other change I think that was made in committee was adding the requirement that a majority of the members of the board be Malden residents, which we thought was an excellent idea. So just to very briefly explain what this is, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund will be the sole kind of singular entity in the city of Malden addressing affordable housing, kind of driving the city's affordable housing strategies. And we're very excited to be joining more than 100 communities that already have one, and we have some of the other systems in place, like our CPC set up, that I think will make this a very effective process. And we just appreciate the expediency that the council and the mayor's office showed, obviously in proposing it and in bringing it through committee.
Thank you, Mr. Pratt.
Thank you.
Mr. Spettinini?
That was great. That was great.
Right?
Yeah. Thank you all for your leadership on this. We're thrilled to be putting this before you today. I wanted to go over some of the key changes. So starting with the makeup of the board. So by statute, we have the mayor or designee is the chair. The next one would be a member designated by the city council. We had as the third member initially, our proposal was one member designated by the planning board, which we have removed. The fourth was is still the executive director of the housing authority. That one's staying. We have the next one was the executive director of the redevelopment authority, which we have removed. So just to recap that, the ones that we've kept are the mayor, city council designee, and the housing authority executive director or designee. The next one is a member appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city councilor, the city council, who is a Malden resident living in or eligible for deed-restricted affordable housing. And then the final three seats are to be appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the council with relevant professional experience in nonprofit affordable housing development, real estate or finance, or nonprofit housing services. So that's the makeup now. And then we also added that piece of a minimum of 4 of the 7 trustees will be Malden residents. And that's the major.
Do you want to talk about the disbursement of the federal trust funds?
Sure.
Because that's a change too as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, just so the council knows.
Let me just pull that up. So just to recap this one, the way the expendable trust works now is, so in certain zoning districts, developments, for each housing unit, $2,000 are put into an expendable trust fund. That money is dispersed when the mayor has something to use the money for. We'll come here to appropriate that money, and how that's split right now is 50% goes to a mitigation account controlled by the mayor, and 50% is split between the 11 councilors. So our proposal is to change that formula a little bit. When the money is appropriated, 50% will go to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and 25% will go to the mayor's development mitigation account, and the remaining 25% will be split amongst the 11 councilors. That's the major piece that we're proposing, and the piece that was added in ordinance was to change, so the first piece of it reads the mayor shall, in conjunction with the annual appropriation order and may at any other time deemed appropriate, recommend the funds be appropriated. So we are going to amend that to be the mayor shall, by the first city council meeting in January, recommend the funds be appropriated. Yeah, those were the main changes on that.
So I want to give a little history on that reason for the change to that paper. The change was because the mayor could deem at any time, and there was no Not saying the mayor wasn't deeming it at the appropriate time. I just felt since we're changing the formula, I know a lot of councils here, especially the ward councils, rely on those expendable trust funds to do various things within their wards. Now that we're changing that up, and for good reason, the mayor now will let us know what that expendable trust fund is getting in the beginning of the year, so we don't go out and spend more money than we might be getting, or at least we can plan ahead for that year into the next year. So that's why we put a kind of a date there for the mayor to say, hey, listen, let us know what we're getting as councilors, what's going in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund now, and what's going to go to the mayor, just so we can budget those dollars appropriately going forward. Hopefully that's something that's reasonable. I do want to, again, thank Councilor Condon and Councilor Winslow for the makeup of that committee. There was a lot of great talk on there, talking about transparency and making sure everybody was accountable. And we went from 9 to 7. You know, it's tough to get quorum with sometimes 5 people, never mind 9. So there's a lot of dialogue, and hopefully we can have a good meeting back from our little pause there and vote this through. But any questions? Again, Alex and Evan are here, as well as Debbie and Maria. Everybody has first names now for the mayor's office and the MRA. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. No questions.
Okay, thank you.
On Councilor Spatafora's motion to enroll the ordinance, the clerk will call the roll. And on 38719?
This will be to enroll paper 387-19. Anderson.
Yes.
Kamel.
Yes.
Condon.
Yes.
Crow.
Yes.
DeMaria. Matheson.
Yes.
Murphy. O'Malley.
Yes.
Spatafora.
Yes.
Winslow.
Yes.
Sika.
Yes. On Councilor Spatafora's motion to suspend docket rules for the purpose of ordaining, the clerk will call the roll. Oh, vote. With a vote?
Roll call.
Oh, voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Rules have been suspended.
You want me to speak on that? The reason why? The reason why we're doing this is we were supposed to get this out a couple weeks ago. There was, we had to approve the minutes first, some procedural processes that I'm not picking on you, Council, Clerk Lucy. There's some procedural stuff. We wanted to make sure we approved the minutes first before we brought it to committee. So I thought it was going to be approved 2 weeks ago. We finally got the minutes cleaned up. We did approve those minutes, and now we're going forward. That's why I'm asking it to be ordained. Thank you, Madam Chair.
On Councilor Spatafora's motion to ordain the ordinance, the clerk will call the roll.
Anderson. Yes. Kamel.
Yes.
Condon.
Yes.
Crow.
Yes.
DeMaria. Yes. Matheson.
Yes.
Murphy. O'Malley. Spatafora.
Yes.
Winslow. Sika.
Yes. The
Passes
matter is
10-0.
ordained. Next order of business.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
There's a snow removal, right?
To enroll paper 321-19.
What's that?
This will back.
It's the next paper. They just went over the expendable trust.
It's two
So
papers.
we just spoke about both. Yeah,
Yeah.
38819.
It's 2 separate papers. One's the creation and one's the amendment.
Okay. On Councilor Spatafora's motion to enroll the ordinance as amended, the clerk will call the roll.
Anderson.
Yes.
Kamel.
Yes.
Condon.
Yes.
Crow.
Yes.
DeMaria. Matheson. Murphy. O'Malley. Spatafora.
Yes.
Winslow. Sika.
Yes. On Councilor Spatafora's motion to suspend docket rules for the purpose of ordaining. It's a different paper. Doesn't matter.
Where's the snow removal?
They did take up both papers, so it was a little confusing, yeah.
It's not coming out there.
Yeah.
Oh, these are
We received 2 papers at one time when they were up at the podium. So paper 388-19 was talked about while they were talking about 387-19. So we need to receive 388-19.
On Councilor Spatafora's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Good catch.
The committee report is received. Councilor Spatafora, you don't,
No, now
Okay.
you get a roll.
Now we're enrolling.
okay.
Okay, to enroll paper 38819, we'll take that again. Anderson. Kamel. Condon. Crow.
Yes.
DeMaria. Matheson. O'Malley. Murphy. Spatafora.
Yes.
Winslow. Sika.
Yes. On Councilor Spatafora's motion to suspend docket rules for the purpose of ordaining, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Rules have been suspended. On Councilor Spatafora's motion to ordain the ordinance as amended, clerk will call the roll.
Anderson. Kamel. Condon. Crow.
Yes.
DeMaria. Matheson. Murphy. O'Malley. Spatafora.
Yes.
Winslow. Sika.
Yes.
Passes 10.
The order is ordained as amended. Next order of business.
Paper 389-19, Committee Report Rules and Ordinance, Paper 64-19, Ordinance. Be it hereby ordained that Section 35, subsection 1 of Chapter 11 of the Rules and Ordinance of 1991 be amended as follows. Number 1, insert or public crosswalk after abutting a public sidewalk. Number 2, insert or crosswalk after shall make said sidewalk. Number 3, insert or crosswalk after slush from said sidewalk. Number 4, strike, remove snow, slush, and ice from said sidewalk within 24 hours after snowfall has ended or the Department of Public Works has declared that the snow removal operations are complete. And insert for non-commercial properties excluding multifamily properties of 5 or more units, remove snow, slush, and ice from said sidewalk within 24 hours after snowfall has ended or the DPW director has declared the snow removal operations are complete. For commercial properties and multifamily properties of 5 or more units, remove snow, slush, and ice from said sidewalk within 12 hours after snowfall has ended or the Department of Public Works Director has declared that snow removal operations are complete.
On Councilor Spatafora's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor? All those opposed? The committee report is received. Councilor Spatafora for the committee.
I'm going to turn it over to the sponsor. I know Council Winslow was the sponsor as well as Council O'Malley, but Council Winslow has his light on, so if the committee would allow, let Council Winslow speak.
Yeah, no, we had some good discussions of this in the committee, and I think the basic, what we came out as a committee report was really to actually make fewer amendments than is listed here, so I can just report as was voted out. The first 3 suggested amendments we did not go forward on, about inserting things related to the crosswalk. We thought that was already covered by the ordinance. And then the 4th one is as we approved that with the exception of just crossing out the language of after the snowfall in those references and just having the snow removal be based on 24 hours after the Public Works Director declares the end of snow removal operations. And so that'd be 24 hours for non-commercial properties and 12 hours for commercial properties and multifamily. So that was how we voted it out as the committee. That was a recommendation that was voted out. So I guess that's what the recommendation of the committee was. So it's basically, the most significant proposal is for commercial and multifamily properties have the time to remove the snow reduced to 12 hours after the DPW declares the end of snow removal operations. And I think there was a lot of good discussion in the committee that, especially at major properties in our commercial areas, having a little bit speedier cleanup will help remove situations where people can't get through. People are out there right after snow removal operations walking around, and if that snow gets kind of packed down, it creates a lot of problems. So I think that was the intent. But for most residential people, this wouldn't really affect what they would be doing. So thanks, Greg.
Thank you. Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President. Just to clarify again, the first 1 through 4 are not happening, and it's just the second 2, and we'll be striking snowfall has ended, and it will just read as within 24 hours after the Public Works Director has declared that the snow removal operations are complete. That's for non-commercial properties. And then for commercial properties, it would be 12 hours, and then we'd just be striking snowfall has ended or. And the main justification for this is particularly around the trains, particularly around the downtown. Even if it's a light snowfall of 1 or 2 inches, if those are not cleared, it gets compacted, it gets very icy. And in our central business district and in areas where there is a lot of foot traffic for commercial purposes, the sidewalks really need to be clear in a timely manner. So I'd appreciate the support. I don't want to stifle any debate. I don't see any lights. So I would move to enroll as amended.
Councilor Crowe.
Thank you, Madam President. The only thing I really wanted to add, and I think we had a lot of conversation about really clearing out the handicap ramps to crosswalks, and that was going to be, we really have to do an educational piece to, help a neighbor to, help clear those, as we ask people if they have a fire hydrant near them to try to clear that. And I think it was more about education and not really holding them necessarily accountable, but trying to encourage that, and that's an important step. So we really, this is that first step to say, let's just help the neighbors out, and because if the opening to the crosswalk is not cleared, they're not walking up the street that it's already cleared to the corner and have no place to go. So I think we want to make sure that we sort of get that out as we have our first little bit of a snowfall. Thank you.
Thank you. On Councilor Spatafora's motion to enroll the ordinance as amended, the clerk will call the roll.
Anderson. Yes. Kamel. Condon.
Yes.
Crowe.
Yes.
DeMaria. Yes. Matheson.
Yes.
Murphy. O'Malley.
Yes.
Spatafora.
Yes.
Winslow. Yes. Sika.
Yes. On Councilor Spatafora's motion to suspend docket rules for the purpose of ordaining, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The rules have been suspended. On Councilor Spatafora's motion to ordain the ordinance as amended, the clerk will call the roll.
Anderson.
Yes.
Kamel. Condon.
Yes.
Crowe.
Yes.
DeMaria. Yes. Matheson.
Yes.
Murphy. O'Malley.
Yes.
Spatafora.
Yes.
Winslow. Yes. Sika.
Yes. The ordinance is ordained as amended. Next order of business.
Paper 390-19, Committee Report on License. Petition Paper 356-19, Livery Yosef Tisfeya. And Paper 363-19, Amusement Machines Dockside Restaurant.
On Councilor Anderson's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The committee report is received. Councilor Anderson for the committee.
Move granting.
On Councilor Anderson's motion to grant these petitions, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The petitions have been granted. Next order of business. The docket is clear. Personal privilege? No? Okay. Oh, Councilor O'Malley.
Hello.
Go ahead.
So this Thursday at 6 p.m., Malden Overcoming Addiction will have their fundraiser. It's like a rock concert. I believe it is at the Irish American. Again, it is to help fundraise for the Bridge Recovery Support Center that's coming to Malden. So if you're interested in coming out, please come there. Support a great organization like Malden Overcoming Addiction. Thank you.
Thank you. And on behalf of the chair, I just wanted to let everybody know that a couple of weeks ago, we had a meeting at the Moose to discuss the Broadway Route 99 corridor and what you would like to see at that particular location. If you did not attend the meeting and you would like to give your input, there is actually a survey online I think it's posted on the City of Malden official Facebook page. And it just asks you a bunch of questions, what kind of businesses you'd like to see, you know, where you think a crosswalk should be, all that kind of fun stuff. We'd love to hear your input as to what you would like to see the future of the Broadway 99 corridor to be. So make sure you find that survey and fill it out for us. Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, I'm pleased to let the council and the public know we have now hired our transportation planner. Yang Wei Tommy is coming us from the Merrimack Planning Council. And so he is, he actually grew up his first 6 grades in Malden. And he's worked, he got his degree from the Tufts Urban Planning Program, and he's worked with the Mass Convention Center on shuttle buses and done a lot of planning up in the Merrimack Valley area, so we're excited. I just met with him today, and he'll start working on a lot of these transportation issues we're about to tackle. So, but I'm just excited to have him on board and look forward to you know, having him come to various meetings. I think he'll be at the Traffic Commission next week, and just getting him involved in the various transportation projects we have going on in the city. So we're excited about that. So great.
Thank you. On Councilor Condon's motion to adjourn? Aye. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The meeting has been adjourned.